And we are live. We are live. I think. Yep, I think we're live. Hello, hi Carl. Good to have you on board. I think this is the first time you've joined us for a quick conversation. Thanks for joining. I really appreciate it. For those of you who don't know Carl very well, he's geopolitical analyst. He's based in Indonesia, but you are Chinese, right? But you just live in
I am
Indonesia.
Chinese. I'm born and raised. I was born in China in 1976. So full disclosure, I grew up in China in 1980s. I went to US to join my parents in 1990, and I stayed in US for almost 30 years. But I came to in Bali, Indonesia, it's a pure chance. I love to surf. I came here for surfing in 2019, just before the pandemic, and but I fell in love with the island. I decided to settle down even before the pandemic began. So I have been living in Bali for 4 years now, and over 4 years, and now I am. I put down my roots here. I have a family here, and but China is my passion. China, I love to talk about everything related about China, history, culture, politics, you name it. And again, thank you, AJ, for inviting me to your channel, and I'm really looking forward to our talk.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, I know a lot about China because I've actually traveled there. I think twice I've been there already. I'm looking to go back soon though, maybe this year. Just got to sort a few things out first of all. But yeah, I've been meaning to have you on the channel for quite a while, and I'm really, really happy you're here. So today's topics, we're mainly going to be talking about China, obviously, but I want to also talk about what's happening in Gaza, and obviously it's related in some aspects, and also talk about Yemen as well, the shipping and how that fits into it as well. Um, but we'll start with Gaza actually. The latest news is the ICJ ruling has basically it's a mixed bag basically. Looks like they all supported South Africa in terms of all the judges voted in favor of South Africa. However, in terms of any action or punishment to Israel, there doesn't seem to be any. There's no ceasefire, first of all. And secondly, they're not asking for Israel to stop their genocide. They're just asking nicely, "Oh, could you please make sure you don't genocide the people, please?" It's just they're just asking them nicely. So it just seems like a whitewash to me. I think it's not going to stop Israel from doing what they're doing. They're going to still carry on. So I just wanted to see what your thoughts are.
To be honest, this is what I kind of expected out of ICJ. If they had denied South Africa's filing and if they denied it was a genocide, I mean, that would just basically threw the credibility of ICJ into gutters. Nobody would take ICJ seriously anymore. Despite overwhelming evidence presented by South Africa, and all the evidence presented by Israel propaganda themselves. The Israel propagandists are posting evidence of war crime every day on social media, and but again, it's just like a toothless UN resolution, right? I mean, how many UN resolution have been calling for establishment of Palestine, for example? I mean, it's just never done because nobody can force Israel to comply. I mean, ICJ, they can at least they took the moral high ground, which is I appreciate. But again, there's no arms of enforcement. We all know Israel get away with murder because it has a full supporting of United States. Joe Biden, Tony Blinken, to make nice speech about, oh, we communicate our concerns about humanitarian issues in Gaza, but at the same time, they're shipping tons of weapons and munitions to Israel to fully support this ongoing genocide and ethnic cleansing. So it's really about holding these party accountable, and I think it shows ever more why the continued U.S. hegemony is bad for much of the global South, and hopefully that thankfully, that era is coming to an end, as we have seen, with the action of Ansar Allah in Yemen. They effectively then made Yemen a major naval power in the 21st century by directing 11% of the world shipping away from Red Sea to run the Cape of Good Hope, and U.S. can do nothing about it. There were many people boasting about the U.S. military strength when U.S. went in with what they call the prosperous guardian, and 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 yet, despite bombing of Yemeni capital, despite the heavy U.S. military presence, U.S. ships still not going through. Just yesterday we had the attack on two U.S. container ship escorted, covered by U.S. Destroyer, trying to go through the Bab al Mandeb. That's a narrow strait that separates the Red Sea and the Arabian Sea, and they were turned back because after Ansar Allah has fired 3 missiles, one of which exploded 100 meters, 100 meters away from the container ship, and the U.S. decided to call it quits. And by the way, those are not civilian container ships; those are container ships that's commissioned by U.S. Defense Department, so they're likely loaded with weapons and munition for Israel. So
Sure.
Ansar
Can I
Allah is showing the world how it's done.
Sure. Can I stop you there for a second? I think
Sure, go
you have
ahead.
to accept on Spaces. Can you accept the co-host? I think people can't hear you on the Spaces side.
Okay, sure. I accepted the co-host.
Yep. And then
Okay,
I'll put you as a speaker as well, so people can hear you.
great. Okay. Should I
Yep.
turn
Perfect.
the mic on my or you can record it from your end? Can people hear
No,
me?
no, yeah. I think you're on mute. So if you're on mute, and you can start talking.
Okay. I mean, should I turn the unmute my mic on space because I didn't want like a echo effect going on
Oh
there.
no, yeah. So you have to unmute on Space so people can hear you on
Okay,
Space.
got it. Done.
But you can put your sound down for your phone so they can hear both
Yeah,
sides. I think.
got it.
Yeah,
Okay, let's go.
just making sure people can hear you.
Can people hear me now?
Oh, no, they can't actually. Actually, can you try again?
Well, you want
Yeah,
me to
yeah.
unmute
People,
and
no, people
remute?
can hear you now.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fine. Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, so I wanted to also kind of talk to you about the story how the US has been begging China to stop the Yemenis from attacking those ships. Is that any truth to that? And I mean, I saw a report saying that China has refused and said, that's your problem. Basically, this is all down to Gaza, so you need to resolve the Gaza issues or something. Do you want to have? Do you know anything about that? Or
Yeah, so just a couple of days ago, during a press conference given by U.S. Foreign Ministry, one reporter from Reuters asked a question about the breaking news on Financial Times. The Financial Times is first one to break the news that U.S. is asking China's help to pressure Iran to pressure Ansar Allah Yemeni forces to stop attacking ships in the Red Sea. So Reuters journalist is asking the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson to speak on that, and the response is actually pretty interesting because what the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson has said is we obviously do not condone attacking on civilian ships. He said we call for stop on attack on civilian ships. But then he said the top priority right now is stop the fighting in Gaza because that's the ultimate cause. And then he also pointed out that I don't believe the United Nations Security Council have authorized use of force against Yemen, and the territorial integrity of Yemen must be respected. So again, it's like China is taking a principled stance. It says, okay, we don't like civilian ship to be stopped, but really, what right now we really should concentrate on is stop the fighting in Gaza, and that what U.S. is doing right now, bombing Yemen with UK, that is really in violation of the spirit of UN, and it's violating the territorial integrity of Yemen. It's an act of aggression, and it's actually escalating. China is actually calling for a calm, to all the relevant party to step back from escalating tension further. Now, I like to remind people the Ansar Allah actually is not attacking the Chinese and Russian shipping at this moment. All the shipping that's still trying to go through Red Sea, they're advertising they're either not going to Israel or they have Chinese crew on board. And so right now we're talking about it's specifically U.S. shipping that's been targeted. And as we've seen in the latest attacks, it was a Maersk Detroit and Maersk Chesapeake. They're both U.S. flag, U.S. operated, U.S. owned ships escorted by U.S. warships that was turned back. So, I mean, at the end of the day, right now, despite its overwhelming military presence in the region, there's very little U.S. can do to restore normal shipping routes through Red Sea. I mean, they try to use force. They bomb the capital of Yemen repeatedly. But look, U.S. have been waging a proxy war on Yemen for over 10 years now. Since the Yemen civil war began in 2014, United States have supported the Saudi, the UAE coalition against Ansar Allah. I mean, and throughout those 10 years, U.S. Navy has helped Saudi and UAE to blockade Yemeni ports, causing famine and death of millions of children. Yet Ansar Allah never yielded, and what they're doing now is not going to change. It's not going to change. The Yemenis are not going to back down. I mean, is U.S. going to send its boots on the ground? I don't think so. That's unlikely. I mean, given what's already happening, U.S. is actually trying to draw down its forces from Syria and Iraq, because all the U.S. bases in Syria and Iraq are sitting ducks right now. They are, first of all, a lot of people probably don't know U.S. still maintain forces in Syria and Iraq in 2024, but now they're basically isolated pockets surrounded by militias that's been supplied and trained by Iran, and they are, they're just target practice for missile strikes at the moment. So we're hearing news that U.S. is drawing down forces from Syria and Iraq, but I don't think they have the manpower to put boots on the ground in Yemen. If they do, it will be even worse than Afghanistan and Iraq for United States. So that's my take.
Sure. I mean, what a really bad idea attacking Yemen. I mean, they flout international law. It doesn't even go through Congress. And then you have the puppets in Britain doing the same thing. And all over a couple of ships. They do nothing when it comes to genocide that's going on. But when it comes to shipping lanes and stuff, they would attack a country, start bombing them. And again, Yemen has nothing to lose, right? I mean, they've been bombed for 8 years by Saudi Arabia. And they are pretty much in war footing. So most of their important military stuff would probably be underground or hidden. It's not going to be that easy to bomb Yemen. And the
There's
people there,
a
yeah, go on.
There's a Chinese saying called 光脚的不怕穿鞋, which literally means the barefoot people are not scared of people who have shoes. And it's literally true in the case of Yemen. I don't know if people have seen footage of these Ansar Allah fighters. They're not wearing shoes. I mean, those barefoot fighters have been bringing down Saudi tanks in the past 10 years. They're not scared of the United States. They are very firm in their beliefs, and they have seen their country suffer in the hands of U.S. imperialism. They're not going to back down. I actually found I actually opened up the U.S. Foreign Ministry page, the actual transcript of the response to the Reuters journalist. So the Reuters journalist asked, the Financial Times reported that U.S. has asked China to urge Tehran to rein in the Iranian-aligned Houthi attacking commercial ships in Red Sea, but has seen little signs of help from Beijing. This is according to U.S. officials. The report said the U.S. has repeatedly raised the matter with top Chinese officials in the past 3 months. Could we confirm with the ministry if this discussion with the U.S. took place? Has China been in touch with Iran or the Houthis about the Red Sea attacks? If so, what was discussed or any outcome that China is hoping for? And the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Wang Wenbin said, we're deeply concerned over the recent rapid escalation of tensions in the Red Sea. The Red Sea is an important international trade route for goods and energy. China has been in close communication with various parties, work actively to alleviate the tension in the Red Sea. China calls for a stop of causing disturbances to civilian ships and urge relevant party to avoid adding fuel to the fire in the Red Sea and jointly safeguard the safety of the Red Sea shipping route in accordance with the law. It must be stressed that the tension in the Red Sea is a manifestation of the spillover of Gaza conflict. The priority now is to end the fighting in Gaza as soon as possible to avoid further escalation and prevent the situation from getting out of control. In the meanwhile, we believe that Security Council has never authorized the use of force by any country on Yemen, and the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Yemen and other coastal countries of the Red Sea need to be earnestly respected. China stands ready to work with all parties to help to cool down the situation and safeguard the security and stability of the Red Sea region. Now, one thing to note, I mean, as I mentioned before, the attack on the U.S. ships yesterday or the two days ago, I don't think they even fall under the civilian ships because they were commissioned by U.S. Defense Department to haul weapons and then munitions. And so, I mean, China is just taking a principled stance. There's a new report coming out, I think, from Reuters just a few hours ago. They said that according to their anonymous Iranian source, that China did approach to Tehran and asked Tehran to put pressure on Ansar Allah in Yemen, and the failure to do so will negatively impact trade relationship between China and Iran. Now, I'm very skeptical. These anonymous officials. I tweeted. I was joking. I said, "Are these Iranian sources quoted? Are they from Are they from Beverly Hills in Los Angeles? Because Los Angeles has a large Iranian diaspora after the Islamic Revolution. It's sometimes Los Angeles is called the Tehran Angeles because it has a large Iranian diaspora population. So, I just don't see what China could gain to, pressure Iran to. I mean, first of all, it's not. Why would Ansar Allah even care about trade relationship between Iran and China? And second of all, that kind of language, we're more used to that kind of language coming to United States officials. They will say, "Oh, if you don't do what we say, we're gonna place trade sanction on you." I mean, it strikes me as very odd. I'm not gonna, I don't know. I wouldn't put too much stocking on it. Reuters, AP, all these Western media channels. I mean, it's not like they have not been found lying in the past. Anonymous source. For all we know, those anonymous sources could be coming from Langley in Northern Virginia. So that's my
True.
take.
It's not in China's interest to do anything. It's one of those sayings: "Do nothing but win." So, I mean, that strait in the Red Sea is basically allowing mainly Chinese and Russian ships. So they got the whole path clear in front of them. Normally, in the Red Sea, there is a huge waiting list. I think the waiting list is around a month, maybe like 3 months on certain busy times of shipping lanes, because that path through the Suez Canal is very narrow. And Chinese ships are actually getting through that Suez Canal very fast compared to how it was like 3 months ago, for example. So it's in China's interest not to do anything, because trade for them, things are going faster, and a lot more countries are trading with China. And also there's a lot of trains. I think there's more traffic through the trains through the Belt and Road scheme as well. There's a lot of countries ordering that. 'Cause I think that's gone up as
And,
well.
and this is just analogous to Washington crying about China not helping with the Russian sanction, right? I mean, we saw that for the last 2 years. We have seen reports after reports of Washington demanding China to do something to help sanction Russia. Again, United States have already but declared China as enemy number one, and it's understood if Russia falls, if Yemen falls, United States is going to switch all its energy on China. So I mean, what, they think Chinese are stupid? I mean, like, yeah, we're gonna help you to take out Russia and to take out Yemen, so you can come after us next. I mean, I know Washington is full of idiots, but the problem is they actually assume everybody else are just as stupid and moronic as they are, and but I think Chinese leadership are much smarter than that.
Yeah, I saw a Twitter post this morning, and apparently there's a huge container of weapons that's been shipped to Philippines, and we're talking about tanks and airplanes, helicopters, armored personnel carriers, huge war-like equipment. And obviously, Philippines have added 4 new bases right next to Taiwan, the island of Taiwan, and also the South China Sea. So they are still pushing for escalation in that part of the world. They're pushing Philippines. They're also obviously pushing the island of Taiwan as well. I wanted to also talk to you about
Well,
elections as
yeah,
well. But
yeah, I
yeah,
mean, it's funny, right? Like when you have when United States is already deep involved in a two-front proxy war in Ukraine against Russia, and then the supporting Israeli genocide in Gaza, and then bombing Yemen. The best course of option is, of course, to open a third front, right? I mean, to go against the industrial powerhouse that's China in Taiwan Strait. I mean, that totally makes sense. But you know what? I don't put it past the stupidity of United States leaders. Um, I think the amount of military hardware that's been shipped to Subic Bay in the Philippines right now is unprecedented. U.S. actually got kicked out of the Philippines in the 1990s. After basically after end of Vietnam War and after the end of Cold War, the Filipino people finally got fed up. So like, why are you guys still here? So the U.S. was forced to close down the Clark Air Force Base and the Subic Bay Naval Base. Now US is trying to return back to the South China Sea in force. Now people are saying, oh, that's because China's aggressive behavior, blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? The funny thing is, when Duterte was the president of the Philippines, and when he pioneered a conciliatory approach with China, there wasn't much happening in the South China Sea. And but as soon as Duterte's left office, and Bongbong Marcos got, United States made an offer to Bongbong Marcos, an offer that he couldn't refuse. And suddenly, with a pivot to the Philippine pivot back to U.S., and suddenly the tension flares up in South China Sea. I mean, any clear-eye observer, will see what's going on here. U.S. is trying to basically they decided, okay, if we're not going to be able to get through, like start something in Taiwan Strait, maybe we can start in the South China Sea. That's because U.S. do have military defense, mutual defense treaty with the Philippines. However, in the defense treaty, it did not extend to the atolls in the South China Sea. It was only defined as the Filipino mainland. But U.S. is not known for following the letters of law anyway. So we'll see. But I don't think it's in U.S. interest. I mean, if the U.S. leaders are rational, it's not in their interest to open a gigantic third front war. And China is not moving against Taiwan at the moment. The election has been over for like what, a week now, and all the Anglo media were excited, were practically drooling over the prospect that China might launch a amphibious assault on Taiwan after the election. Well, guess it's a big nothing burger. Nothing happened. And what happened is the Taiwan ruling party, DPP, they won a third term. So what? So that means nothing has really changed fundamentally. It's the DPP has been ruling Taiwan for the past 8 years. They just get another extension for another 4 years. That means the tension with mainland China will remain. The DPP will probably work closely with the United States to antagonize Beijing, but I doubt they're going to declare independence. They even said they will not declare independence because the DPP candidate has said, well, we don't need to declare independence because Republic of China on Taiwan is already independent. So in other words, it's going to be status quo. It's going to status quo, just like the 8 years before. There will be tensions, but there won't be war. China's red line is very clear. If Taiwan declare independence, there will be war. But so if they don't declare independence, just things will go on as before. There will be continued tensions. There will be continued Taiwan purchase of U.S. weapons at inflated price, and it's just more grease for the U.S. military industrial complex. That U.S. has a interest in maintaining the tensions in both South China Sea and Taiwan, because that's a U.S. plan for making America great again. Because all U.S. can do right now is military Keynesianism, right? It's the only thing U.S. have now. It's making weapons. Just continue to feed the military industrial complex at home, but they're not serious about starting a war in Taiwan, because that's potentially, we're talking about the end of the civilization as we know it. It could easily go into nuclear exchange. All the top brass in Washington, they still want to retire comfortably to like Bahamas or their McMansions in Virginia. So they're not interested in a nuclear fallout world. So I'm not worried about Taiwan. I'm not worried about anything. Even South China Sea, I don't think the tension will continue, but I doubt anything is going to happen. That's my take.
I do agree with you, but I have to probably say that I do think that things might change when Trump comes into power, mainly because the Republicans are heavy anti-Chinese guys. And when Trump was in power last time, and you can see the heavy rhetoric coming out of Trump and his backbenchers, and obviously there was a huge amounts of pressure on China at the time. Biden continued most of it, and unfortunately for Biden,
Well, actually, the Biden policy is much worse than the Trump policy. The semiconductor ban and it really start to hit China during Biden administration. Because Biden, the difference between Trump and Biden is, Trump is he's like, okay, America can go it alone, right? I mean,
Mm.
he doesn't really care much for alliances. So the Europeans don't like him, right? And he talked about making all the NATO countries pay for their dues and stuff like that. And Trump is a wild card. Biden is, the Europeans like Biden because he's not Trump,
Yep.
right? And but again, it's blue MAGA, red MAGA, they're all the same. But
They're all
but
the
but
same.
Biden is
Yeah.
more insidious because he is about building the partnership and alliances to contain China. Um,
Mm.
so so in this case, Trump will be a disruptive force because he's unpredictable.
Yep.
If Biden is president, we'll just United States will continue to support the genocide in Israel. United States will still be committed with proxy war in Ukraine and continue tension with China. I mean, the thing with Trump is Biden is a no, right? In Donald Rumsfeld's words, we know what Biden is going to do. Trump is you don't really know because he is a businessman. He might actually make a deal with China over Taiwan. That's something a lot of these war hawks and think tankers are actually afraid of during Trump's first term. That somehow they scared that Trump will somehow trade over Taiwan for some trade deals with China, and with Trump. And good news is a lot of the neocons that serve in the Biden's in Trump's first administration, first term,
Mm.
they're probably not coming back because they have soured their personal relationship with Trump. So maybe we'll get a new crop, or who knows? But at least those old, I don't see John Bolton, for example, going back to work
Yeah.
for Trump
But That,
White House
that
again, right?
Mike Pompeo was absolutely the worst, if you remember.
Yeah.
He,
I
he
don't
was.
think he's going to get an offer this time around
Yeah.
with Trump. So I think in this case, I think Trump might actually represent a change. We don't know if it changed for the worse or changed for the better, but it's a
Sure.
change.
Yeah, I mean, I've recently heard him speak a few weeks ago during his Ohio win, actually last week. I mean, and he did mention China a few times, and he said it in a very negative tone. So I'm just thinking like he might push for that. I mean, yeah, I mean, I do agree that Biden is worse than Trump, 100%. He's much, 100% worse. But I think Biden got too carried away with Ukraine, now with the Middle East. He would have loved to have concentrated on China. I think he would have loved to have pushed things further with China. But
so
I think he's kind of
so
distracted now.
So I mean, during Trump's first term, there's some American thinkers that wanted to have a reset with Russia and even bring Russia in to together to contain China. That's a thought that was proposed by American thinker John Mearsheimer, for example. But the problem is there's a lot of resistance, a lot of inertia in the NATO institutions, right? Because the whole NATO is set up to be containing Russia. If you go buddy with Russia, that kind of a lot of people will be out of jobs. So that's why we got this crazy Russia Gate conspiracy that was proposed by Democrats, and that is why during Trump's term, that's when Trump started to was almost forced to kick out the Russian diplomats from American soil. So Trump's hands are tied. Even if he wants to kiss and make up with Russia, I don't think that will happen. And the Russians, they're also not stupid. They know U.S. is not trustworthy and reliable. The last thing, what they're gonna just stab China in the back and align with Washington only for the next leadership to change their mind, because U.S. election cycle, it's every 4 years. You don't know who's going to come to power. We see what happened with Trump. When Trump come to power, all the all the old policy got thrown out the window, like
Yep.
Obama's Iran deal, right? So how can you how can you have any kind of long-term trust with country like that? When you know like your any agreement you sign can be thrown out in 4 years. And so I'm not worried about, I'm not worried right now. You Americans should worry about the impending polarization inside the country. I don't know if you saw that the Texas
Yeah. Yeah.
National Guard and all
Yep.
the other states are sending their voicing support for Texas, and some even say they're sending National Guards to Texas. I mean, like that's just crazy stuff. This is like this is like. I don't know. I don't know if anything is going to happen. I don't think there's going to be a civil war, but it's definitely, I haven't seen this kind of polarization in my lifetime. In my 30 years in the United States, I never think things getting this bad. So 2024 is going to be a shit show in US, and
Yeah.
and so yeah, I would be more worried about what's going to happen in US than worry about what they're gonna do, try to start World War III with China.
Yeah, but that's the thing, Carl. During a dying empire, you don't know what they're gonna do. They might get very desperate, and and with these neocons, and you've seen what they've done with Russia and now the Middle East with genocide. These people are capable of anything. And you mentioned that obviously, if Taiwan ever declares independence, then China would go to war. But there are other war triggers as well. For example, if US basically sends huge military base, creates a military base in Taiwan, if they discontinue with the one China policy, for example, if they start sending the president and his vice president
I
VP to
don't even know
Taiwan.
if that's true. I don't even know that's true because during the Cold War, U.S. did maintain a huge military presence in Taiwan. During Vietnam War, 60,000 U.S. soldiers rotated out of Taiwan,
Mm,
and U.S. actually stationed nuclear weapons on Taiwan until 1970s. They had nuclear tipped missiles pointing at targets on mainland China on Taiwan since 1958. So I mean, like, and U.S. actually had a plan to use them. During 1958,
yep.
second Taiwan crisis. We have that leak from Daniel Ellsberg. The U.S. Pentagon were seriously thinking about carrying out the nuclear strike on mainland China if the PLA have taken the offshore Kinmen Islands. And so I mean, like, of course, that back then there was no war. I mean, I don't even if Taiwan declare independence, yes, there's a high likely possibility there's going to be
Mm.
war. But even with U.S. military based on Taiwan, I don't even know if that would trigger a war.
Yeah,
To
but
be honest,
China was different back then. I mean, back then,
it's true. It's
China
true.
was a much weaker country. For example, they had three Taiwanese crisis. I believe there was three Taiwanese crisis where they nearly declared independence. I think they made some big steps towards independence, and
No, no, no,
China
no, no,
was
no, no, no,
no.
no, no, no. That never happened. That never happened because during the first and second Taiwan Strait crisis, Taiwan was still ruled by KMT under the dictator of Chiang Kai-shek, and Chiang Kai-shek is a Chinese nationalist. I mean, he may be a bastard, but he's still a Chinese bastard, and he's the one who actually suppressed the call for Taiwan independence while he was alive. So, and the third Taiwan Strait crisis was basically the 1996 Taiwan election because the president Li Denghui at that time he was basically an advocate for Taiwan independence, but not overtly. And he during that election he made a lot of to drum up popular support at home. He made a lot of bravado posture toward mainland China. That's very that's very aggravating. But at even that time there was no movement toward declaring Taiwan independence. So it's a mood issue. Taiwan independence is not going to be declared unless Washington give explicit backing, support, and encouragement. Because let's face it, that why Taiwan government would never do something like that without the explicit backing of United States. So if U.S. want to push that button, yeah, it's going to be World War III, sure. But I don't know if United States is ready for a nuclear exchange at this moment.
Yeah, there's a lot of neocons that are saying that the best time to attack China is now, while China hasn't got its nuclear deterrent ready yet. Because
What do you mean China doesn't have its nuclear
yeah,
deterrent
well, they're
ready?
saying that
China
China
has
doesn't have.
400.
Yeah, I know they have, but they don't really have a delivery system like the US does. Because what they
What?
call it as they call it a Trident, right? They have these
What?
B-52 bombers, stealth bombers, which
China
China hasn't
doesn't
got yet.
need bombers. China doesn't need bomber. China have ICBM. China have hypersonic missiles. I mean,
Yeah,
like
I know
China
that.
has 400. China has 400 nuclear warheads. I mean,
Yeah,
like
but
right now,
America's got like 6,000 or 7,000
it
or
doesn't
something.
matter. China doesn't care how many times United States can destroy China. China only needs to destroy United States once. I mean, that's a whole whole mad doctrine, right? Mutually assured destruction. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I
it's
remember.
madness to think you
Yeah,
can win a nuclear war. I mean, like that.
yeah,
That's just silly
I
talk.
know what you mean. But during the Cold War, the American
During the Cold
mantra
War,
was,
China did not have capability to strike mainland China, U.S. mainland. China only gained the capability to strike U.S. mainland by late 1980s, but throughout 90s, 2000, the Chinese missile range has improved. So now it covers all United States. No part is immune. So I mean, 400 nuclear warheads, that's enough to wipe out all the major cities. I mean, it's after that, U.S. is not going to survive after that. I mean, you don't need to glass the entire continent from sea to sea, but 400 nuclear warheads, that's enough to guarantee a fallout universe. So yeah,
true.
but
Yeah, I think just one is enough, to be honest. I think just rather than 400. So let's talk about Britain actually. And obviously, there's a there was an article saying that British people are going to be conscripted to um, fight for Britain in their wars, either in Ukraine or in the Middle East.
I'm all for that. I'm 100% for support, sir. Full support.
And
I mean, like,
obviously the British people are not very taken very kindly to that, but
of
obviously they might
course.
not have a choice. So what do
That's
you
a
think about
stupid
Britain
thing.
being?
I
What do you
mean,
think about
that would
Britain
be
being the puppet in this?
that
In
would be
this?
the stupidest thing a British politician can pull, to bring back conscription, to talk about just tanking your public support. And UK and Australia, they're all going to act as deputy of US imperialism. I mean, that's just the way it is. But right now, it doesn't have much tooth. I mean, like, look at US. US, UK, they all have the same problem. They have problem of manpower. They can't even get enough people to staff their the HMS Elizabeth aircraft carrier. And US has the same problem that they can't. They're 20% down on their desired staffing level for the super carrier USS Ford, because they're just not that many people want to sign up with the U.S. Navy anymore. It's like, why are we going to go die in Yemen for what, right? I mean, like and did you know that all these U.S. Shipping companies, they are even the ones that's contracted by Pentagon to go through Red Sea, they're not getting paid wartime bonuses. They don't even get paid wartime bonuses when they're asked to traverse into dangerous territory that could put their life in danger. I mean, that's kind of how the U.S. empire is run right now. It's we're going to screw all the workers, even if you are working for us to carry out imperialism abroad. The system is not sustainable.
Do you think Israel is going to bankrupt the United States because they've got all of these ships all over the Middle East? They are protecting sea lanes. They are absolutely stretched all over the place. They are giving money to Israel. They're giving money to Ukraine. They're sending obviously money to Philippines now. Um,
Well, I mean, Israel can. I mean, if U.S. cut support, if let's face it, without U.S. support, Israel would not be able to do what it does right now. It will run out of ammunition in a month, and its economy will collapse. But it's a lot harder for Israel to bankrupt the United States because U.S. still have a continental economy and U.S. have the printing machine. Right now right now, unfortunately, U.S. dollar is still the world's reserve currency. The de-dollarization haven't happened yet. So in the meantime, they can still printing money to pay for all these foreign wars, which is what they're doing. And so I don't think in the short term, what's happening in Gaza will necessarily bankrupt the United States. But what it will do is drive up inflation, which has already gotten bad since the sanction on Russia. It's going to get much worse. It's going to worsen the quality of life in so-called collective West, in Europe, in US, in Australia, and there will be much more political strife at home front. And we already seen increasing political polarization. It's right-wing parties gaining seats in Europe, and in US you have basically 50-50 divide among the voters. So we're gonna it's not gonna be pretty. It's not gonna be pretty in the next couple of years.
the de-dollarization is a slow process, but I can see it already happening around the world. Many countries have stopped using it, like Russia, for example, and many
Well,
I
Well,
think Middle
Russia was
Eastern countries
forced
have stopped.
to. Russia was forced to
Yeah,
by
yeah.
the U.S. sanction on Russia, uh, and and again, I right now what happened is dollar is being replaced as a trade currency, which makes sense because if China is a factory of the world, China makes everything. Um, and say China goes try to trade with Middle East, for example, when China needs a Middle East oil, why do they need to trade in U.S. dollars, right? I mean, so in those cases, trade will continually be increasingly be carried out in Chinese yuan, but I don't think China is ready for yuan to be a world reserve currency. The problem with the world reserve currency is that you have to accept a large trade deficit with the rest of the world, like currently United States, and that will lead to hollowing out of your industries. I don't think China is ready for that. So this is why China is advocating for like a basket of currencies. And we might see something like a BRICS currency, but those things take time to develop, especially a lot of the financial institution around the world right now is still dollar based. So we're not going to see de-dollarization, like complete de-dollarization anytime soon. I mean, we're talking about a long-term process, maybe 10, 15, 20 years out. In the meantime, us for the short term, for the next year or two, us dollar is still king. And so us can still support Israeli genocide, unfortunately. And but right now what us is incurring is a highly is a is it is a reputational cost, because right now U.S. reputation is basically in tatters, and nobody believes in U.S. when it talks about human rights, because everyone can see what's happening in Gaza, and I don't know. So I it's the multipolar world. I think it's taking place, but U.S. has still the U.S. imperial system will still kind of linger on for a little while.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And I mean, obviously, the dollar is losing strength month by month. And what I've noticed is it all depends on the Middle Eastern countries. If Saudi Arabia and other Middle Eastern countries start selling oil in other currencies, that could be a huge blow to the US dollar, which means, I mean, the oil is a big kind of contributor to the strength of the dollar, and also, uh, I mean,
I
the inflation
I
is
think
going up as well. Printing.
well, I think that's why right now what US is doing, the fallout from this latest fiasco in Middle East will be watched by all parties. One reason a lot of the Middle East country is trading in dollars is because the petrodollar deal they hammer out with Henry Kissinger back in the 70s, and the U.S. is providing security to a lot of the Gulf countries. UAE. We're talking about UAE, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, all these oil gas rich countries. Many of them are monarchy, and some of them are not very popular, like Bahrain, which have a Sunni monarchy ruling over a majority Shiite population. So all of them depend on U.S. military to keep them in power. And in Saudi's case, was keeping, they also are scared of Iran, but. So to replace I don't see China is not going to replace U.S. role in providing security to these Gulf countries. China is not going to send its aircraft carrier abroad at this point. And what we have seen is a different, in case of Syria, you have Russia providing the military muscle and China providing the economic aid. We've seen something similar in Central Asia, where Russia is providing the security guarantee, and China is coming in with the investment. That's kind of the mode of operation China is more comfortable with than sending the People's Liberation Army abroad. So again, in the Middle East is who is going to replace United States as a guarantor, security guarantor. That if that issue is resolved, then U.S. doesn't need to be in the equation anymore. But again, it all depends how the current situation in the Middle East shape up, because right now U.S. looks pretty impotent. U.S. has bombed Yemen repeatedly. U.S. warships sail up and down Red Sea, but they can still protect U.S. shipping through Red Sea. So what good is all these military power then?
Is the US dumping itself into another forever war with Yemen? It did that with Afghanistan for 20 years. It got the Taliban out of power, and after 20 years, they put the
I,
Taliban back into power with American weapons. I mean, do you think
I
they're
don't
going to be
see
stuck?
I don't see that happening because U.S. has been involved in Yemen for over 10 years, but it was a proxy war. U.S. was supporting Saudi Arabia, UAE, and and you wasn't even winning. But I don't think U.S. wants to go because first of all, Yemen has a large population. I mean, like it's and northern Yemen is never been successfully conquered. The highlands of northern Yemen. It's crazy to think that U.S. is committing boots on the ground. I mean, but without boots on the ground, United States cannot secure the sea lanes in the Red Sea. It's just there's just only so much high aerial bombing can do. You will not be able to stop Ansar al-Awlad. But to put the boots on the ground, I don't think there's any plans for that. There's what happened right now. U.S. has been dragged into the Middle East conflict. They would much rather to wrap up Middle East and focus to confront China. That's what Mearsheimer is advocating. Mearsheimer is saying, we need to kiss up with Russia. We need to not to worry about Middle East and just concentrate all our hard power to contain China. But The Russia case is because the NATO institution would not, you know, would not give up on antagonize Russia. And Middle East is because Israel is U.S. golden child. You can all U.S. politician cannot be seen as not fully supporting Israel. So even though I don't think what Israel is doing is in U.S. best interest, but U.S. cannot help but be dragged into it because the particular nature of U.S. domestic politics at this point. You know, you can't be anti-Israel and get elected president of the United States.
Exactly, and you're 100% right, by the way. What I wanted to kind of talk about is Netanyahu and his cronies have said that this war with the Hamas might take a number of years, but Biden's admin came out yesterday saying we are not going to support you if this war lasts a year, for example. You need to wrap it up as soon as possible. And if it does last for a number of years, can you imagine the amount of inflation this would cause with shipping? And
Israel would not survive to carry out this war for a couple of years. I mean, Israel's economy will be totally destroyed. You know, all they can, you know, as long as it has a economy going, you can continue to afford to bring settlers from U.S., UK, and all over the world to Israel. At this, if your economy is shot and you're continuously involving war, who is going to come? Who is going to come to Israel? Are all those settlers that got hit in October 7th? Or how many of them are going back to the Gaza settlements? I mean, it's crazy to think that you know they can just somehow to carry on the life as before. It's
paid by American taxpayers, though, isn't it?
It is, but you still, who is gonna go? You still need people, right? You still need the people for your imperial project.
Yep.
Who is gonna go move to Israel at this current? I mean, initially there might be some Israelis that you know, you know, will do patriotic duty and go back to Israel. But if the war drags on with no end in sight for another few years, how many people are going to go back? How many people are going to go to Israel? You know, and who is going to keep the economy running? And you know, like you people want to live comfortably, and especially when they have options. You know, a lot of the Israelis that have dual citizenship, that have passport, allow them to go to Paris, go to London, go to New York. You know, why do they need to be stuck in Tel Aviv with very little job prospect, for example?
Yeah, completely agree with you. And Israel's economy is absolutely smashed to pieces at the moment. The northern part of Israel is nobody's there because everyone's living in hotels. There's no tourism. They're wasting billions in destroyed military hardware. The tech companies are losing money because all the workers have joined the reservists. So they're losing a huge amount of money. The Eliat port is not usable at the moment because of the Red Sea blockade. So they cannot continue like this. But what I think Israel might do, but I want to hear your thoughts on this, is try and widen the conflict and try and get US involved, like with Lebanon or with Iran. I mean, that's probably what Israel would love to do. And I can see steps where they are trying to do that. And what's your thoughts on it?
Well, they have been doing that from get-go. You know, they want U.S. to bomb Iran. They want U.S. to bomb Hezbollah. I mean, the whole reason U.S. sent a huge armada in the East Mediterranean is to keep Hezbollah in check, because Israel is not afraid of Hamas, but Israel is afraid of Hezbollah because Israel knows it will get its ass kicked. And so the U.S. presence there, you know, U.S. did not need help. Israel didn't need help from U.S. military on carrying out genocide in Gaza, but U.S. need U.S. help to keep a watch on Hezbollah. But again, I don't think U.S. is very much interested to get dragged in deeper into the Middle East quagmire, to Lebanon. I mean, U.S. had been sent. Remember the last time U.S. sent Marine to Lebanon in the 1980s and get
Yep.
their barracks blown up. I
Yep.
mean, and they have to retreat. That's U.S. doesn't want to. It has no appetite for that kind of thing.
Sure, but there's a lot of military hardware that arrived in Israel yesterday. We're talking a lot of F-35 jets, helicopters, new tanks. They are there for a reason. I just think that they might be going into Lebanon or trying to escalate something.
That would be the stupidest thing that Israel could do. Bibi Netanyahu is basically desperate. Like for him to keep clinging onto power is to play the wartime president in Israel, right? So get people rally behind the flag, but it's actually terrible for Israel because Hezbollah is not escalating further because Hezbollah do not want a war. Iran do not want a war. But if you press the issue, if Israel gonna carry out the war to Lebanon, to Hezbollah is not afraid to fight back. We've seen last time when Israel moved to southern Lebanon and got their ass kicked by the Hezbollah. So it's gonna be worse because Hezbollah in 2024 was much better, much stronger, in much stronger position than 20, 30 years ago. The Hezbollah fighters has gained a lot of operational experience fighting the Syrian war. What Israeli soldiers have been doing. They've been shooting at little kids, throwing rocks. So there's no comparison. If Israel go to southern Lebanon in a ground war, they're gonna get their ass kicked.
Yeah, exactly. And you're 100% right. I agree with you. And you mentioned that they're not going to drag this war for a number of years or even a year, but it seems like Netanyahu's dragged himself into a little corner here. I mean, he promised everyone in the West and all his own people that he will win this war against Hamas. But it looks like from where I'm standing that Hamas is winning. I mean, all you see are videos of Hamas taking out tanks and IDF soldiers. But the videos the IDF soldiers are releasing, all you see is them shooting at walls or doing some silly TikTok videos or going through women's underwear, releasing all these, unprofessional, idiotic videos. And it seems to me that Israel is losing. I mean, they're pulling their troops out of Gaza. And so, what is Netanyahu to do if he tells the whole world, oh, yeah, we've lost the war with Hamas? What do you think his options are?
I mean, he is another Chinese idiom is 骑虎难下. He's riding a tiger. It's hard to climb down when you're riding a tiger. So it's gonna be I don't know. I mean, I don't know how he's gonna. I don't really care. I don't really care about fate of Bibi Netanyahu, and what people don't understand is that it's not just about military victory. It's people. United States claimed military victory in the Tet Offensive during Vietnam War. They said, "Oh, we destroyed so much of the Viet Cong infrastructure. We killed so much more of Viet Cong soldiers." But that didn't matter. War is extension of politics. What Tet Offensive in Vietnam War has done is show all the Americans sitting in front of their television that the U.S. presidents claim that they're winning the Vietnam War is wholly bogus. They realize the war is not winnable, and that changed the mood in America. That eventually led to the wrap down in the U.S. involvement in Vietnam. And what happening in Gaza, Israel can destroy a lot of buildings. They can brutalize the civilians, but ultimately it strengthens Hamas. So Hamas popularity has never been so high because they're the ones they're the ones that shown that they're actually standing up to the Israeli military, and what yeah, I just don't see any good options for Israel. I mean, I don't see how this is winnable for them.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a war they're not going to win actually, and I think they're going to drag down the US with them, with whatever they're doing. We've got 10 more
What you
minutes. Yes,
okay?
sorry, go on.
Yeah, go ahead. You want to open up for
Yeah,
questioning,
we've got
Martin?
10 more
Yeah.
minutes, and we want to maybe open up to some questions from people. So I'll let people join in. If you want to ask any questions to Kalzar, you're welcome to do so. Just send a request, guys, and I'll try and add you in. I've added one guy in, the Iron Mike. So if you want to say anything, if anyone else wants to have any questions, welcome to chat. But yeah, we've got Kalzar for 10 more minutes, and so you can just ask a quick one if you want. Iron Mike, are you there? Uh, okay, yeah, you go ahead, Chief.
Yeah,
Carl, I'll let
I
you answer
think
that, but I just want to.
yeah.
Yeah, go on. I'll answer after you.
Okay, great. So with I think one of the big difference is the democratization of media via the social media because 20, 30 years ago you get all your news from is the mainstream news, for newspapers, legacy news, newspapers, TV, and those are channels that's easily controlled by the corporate media. And but now with social media, people can immediately put load up video on Twitter, on Instagram, on TikTok, and add to that, Israelis are not doing themselves any favor. They're putting all the evidence of their war crime on the social media for the whole world to see. So 30, 40 years ago, American audience back at home, when they read about Israel, they're reading from through a very highly filtered lens from Wall Street Journal, New York Times, from like CNN, and MSNBC, etc. And now people can see on TikTok, so people can see on Instagram, people can see on Facebook, on YouTube, all these Israeli atrocities that's apparent to everybody. I mean, you can't hide that. And I think that's why this is a PR disaster for Israel. And frankly, they, how do you spin a genocide, right? But Israelis really made things worse by celebrating it. They're openly celebrating their war crimes on social media, and that's not doing them any favor. So that's my take. And go ahead, AJ, pass it to you.
Yeah, I just wanted to say you're 100% right. I was going to say the same thing, that they're not doing themselves any favors, and when you see TikTok videos of all of these, IDF members making fun out of the Palestinians, and you know, just making fun out of them, ordinary people making fun of them. Then you got the government ministers openly saying they're advocating Amalek and they're advocating genocide. And then you see all the atrocities and bombings on hospitals and schools, and destroying all the infrastructure, withholding water and food. I mean, things like that. They're not, like you said, they're not doing themselves any favors. And a lot of people who have been immune to this over the years, a lot of youngsters, Generation X, Generation Z, they've not known about the situation in Israel. They've kept it hidden throughout, from the rest of the world. But I think this has just brought everything out in the open, because you have all these Gen X and Gen Zs now looking at their TikToks and Instagram and X, and they see all these images of dead kids, and they're absolutely horrified, absolutely horrified. Well, 30 years ago, you probably wouldn't see that because media was controlled, especially wherever was happening in Vietnam. I think the only thing people saw in Vietnam was the dead bodies coming back, but nobody knew exactly what was happening. But yeah, I think social media has completely changed everything. And also another thing that people are not happy with is all the lies that IDF is coming out with, all the propaganda. Like, for example, when they go into the hospital and they see a calendar, for example, and they say, "Oh, these names are terrorist names," when the calendar names were just days of the week, for example. These stupid things like that. Then they're going to these X-ray machines, hiding guns behind there, and then parading naked Palestinians through the street, and making them take 2 takes, 3 takes, and pretending they're terrorists, and just openly lying, and then lying about 40 beheaded babies, and lying about mass rapes, and all of these things have been debunked. And the fact that they're trying to make excuses after excuses for their genocide that they're doing is just not really helping. I want to ask one more um, person to the mic, Carl. Then I'll let you go. So, Iron Mike, do you want to say something?
Thank you, Iron Mike. It's always good to hear from you, Dana, aka Showtime. So I, I agree with you. I mean, people are having this unrealistic expectation with China that if China is not nuking U.S. out of existence, then China is not helping, right? But right now, China is actually uniquely positioned to be able to help to mediate a peace, because United States is out. Nobody trusts United States as an honest broker in this instance. Whereas China, before October 7th, China had an excellent a good relationship with both Saudi Arabia, Iran, and Israel, and that's quite something. And China has always shown its support for Palestine. China's support for Palestinian state never changed. Not you even from stretch back from the Maoist days. Um, China has always supported Palestine, and China only recognized Israel in 1992 after the Oslo Accord signed by PLO and the Israeli. But that. So when I lived in China in 1980, China didn't even recognize Israel. So I mean, right now people are frustrated because they want to see something done to stop this genocide. I understand the frustration, but I think if anybody who can broker a peace in both Ukraine and in Palestine, I think China would be it. This is my take.
Yeah, thanks for that. The latest news I've just noticed is Israel has said they're going to ignore the ICJ recommendations. They're going to carry on what they're doing. And the United States have also said they're not happy with the ruling, but they will support Israel, and Israel's got a right to defend itself. So it looks like the ICJ is not going to do anything by the sounds of it. So my next question is, what do you think China would be able to do at this stage? I mean, do you think, I heard that they are organizing a massive peace meeting somewhere, I believe. But is there anything that China can do to stop this? I mean, maybe work with Russia, the Middle Eastern countries. What do you think is the way forward? Because everyone's kind of given up on the West, given up on America, and the West doing anything about it.
Well, I mean, United States is asking China for help, right? So again, it all has to, like Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson said, it all hinge on the cessation of fighting in Gaza. That's our most important. And right now, the recalcitrant side is Israel. Israel is the one that's carrying out this attack. They're the ones who are carrying out the atrocities. And if and again, Israel cannot do this without full support of United States. So you really falls onto maybe China can tell U.S. in no uncertain terms that this is your mess. You gotta if you really want to stop this, you got to stop shipping munitions to Israel. Let's face it. If U.S. really want to extricate itself from this Middle East quagmire, which I think some segment of U.S. elite do, it's very simple. All they have to do is stop shipping over ammunitions to Israel. Israeli military would not be able to last a month without this resupply of American munitions. So we have to see how the problem I could see is that the U.S. administration itself has been distracted because it's the election year, right? They might Biden is at this point is more worried about his own reelection. So we're gonna have to see how this pans out. It's very unfortunate while everyone is waiting and atrocity keeps on going on in Gaza and more women and children are dying.
Okay. I'd like to also give you an idea. This is the last question, by the way. And I was speaking to a few of my Russian friends, and they are saying that, uh, first of all, there's probably going to be some sort of BRICS currency starting this year or next year. And I think Russia is the chair this year for BRICS. So they're going to be pushing something like that. And if you notice, all the BRICS countries, they are either oil making countries, or basically they basically heavily export a lot of minerals and other things except oil, and they're all located around the Hormuz Strait and the Red Sea. All the countries that are in BRICS. And one my Russian friend is saying that after they release a new currency, they're also looking at a military aspect of BRICS as well, which is going to protect the sea routes. So because they're going to be transporting oil and other important commodities along those important sea lanes, they will be in charge of their own security. So they're looking at expanding BRICS to a military aspect of it. I mean, what's your thought on that? I mean, it looks like the world is going in a multipolar direction, and I think people have had enough of the US controlling the sea lanes and providing security. And you've seen everything that's happening with Gaza, the double standards. Now, I think the world is now going multipolar and probably going to be doing their own security. What's your thoughts on this?
Well, first of all, U.S. is not even providing security at the point. We saw that U.S. couldn't even provide security with its own ships. They're forced to turn back to the Arabian Sea, and so uh, I think okay, I don't know. I'm a little bit skeptical that BRICS can be turned into a military alliance at this point because um, many of the BRIC countries are basically non-aligned. I mean, the one of the but it's an interesting thought experiment because if they do come together, cobble together a military coalition, that means the U.S. role is redundant in Middle East because as I mentioned earlier, one of the U.S. role was to provide security for the Saudi and the other Gulf monarchies, and but if U.S. can't even do that, U.S. What role does U.S. serve in the region, right? And so um, yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. I don't. I'm not a. I can't see the future. I can't predict
Sure.
the future.
I think it all depends how fast the dollar falls and if Saudi Arabia starts using other currencies except the dollar. And also, I think a lot of Middle Eastern countries have seen what's happening in Gaza, so they've lost all trust and respect with the United States. And also, there's the Greater Israel Plan as well. The Greater Israel Plan is taking up land from Lebanon, Jordan, Syria, Egypt as well. And if they can get away with what they're doing in Gaza, who knows what Israel might do next? So these Middle Eastern countries
No,
are extremely worried.
I that greater Israel is a wet dream. I mean, that's a crazy plan. It's from Euphrates River to the Nile River, right? That includes Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, parts of Saudi Arabia, and parts of Egypt. I mean, this is like the wet dreams for the last 200 years. But that's just not. I just don't see how that's going to happen. I mean, talking about escalation, right? Just drag all the countries surrounding region into it. Israel cannot afford to do that at this particular juncture, and it might be in the net BB's personal interest to escalate, but you will end up very badly for Israel as a state. I mean, right now what we're seeing is beginning of an end. And for United States, it's a Suez crisis moment. If people recall back in the 50s when British and French, they're trying to still they're trying to preserve their imperial ambitions and imperial pretension by sending warships to Egypt to Suez Canal because they're against uh, Egypt's plans for nationalization of Suez Canal, and both Soviet Union and the United States didn't back them. They told them no, and so they have to back off. And that was the end of the that was the last hurrah for the British, the French empires. This is the moment when U.S. Navy is going to be revealed that Emperor has no clothes because for all those Navy hardware, they can't even keep the sea lane open. And yeah, I just don't think boots on the ground in Yemen is. I don't think that's even in the cards at the point. So U.S. don't have any options.
Yeah, thanks for that, Carl. Yeah, we've run out of time. I'm going to let you go because I think we've just gone over 1 hour. Um, we've asked the audience members questions as well. So yeah, I just wanted to give.
Maybe we can answer a couple more questions. Like I thought Chief has her hands raised. I'll take one or two questions, then we can wrap it up.
We'll let a new person ask you a question. I think I've just accepted. Um, just accepted. Oh, he's gone now. He's gone. Yeah, if you want to solo, if you want to ask away, and if anyone else wants to ask, please join. Please send a request.
measures. So just to go back to, on the ICJ ruling, interim ruling, I think that is very important. And so what South Africa had started when they started the process regarding number one, which was, a case of genocide against Israel, and number two is the ceasefire aspect. Now, they haven't been able to achieve the ceasefire aspect, but to have this on note, I think is very important. That's all that I wanted to say. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, so I'm actually happy to see that ICJ ruled the way it did. But at the same time, unfortunately, ICJ does not have the enforcement power. Who is going to force Israel to comply? What I could see is that Israel, in a huff, do what the Imperial Japan did in the 1931-32. When the Japanese invasion of Manchuria was brought to the League of Nations, Imperial Japan just said, you know what, I quit. So I could see Israel quitting ICJ in a huff, but again, it's going to hold Israel, accountable. That's the main thing.
Yeah, that is a sticking point, really. I mean, really, they really have no power. So I don't see anything happening. And the US has already said that they're not going to. They don't agree with the ICJ ruling anyway, and also Israel has come out saying they're going to continue as normal. So looks like, yeah, it looks like a slap on the wrist, to be honest, but no measure to actually stop them from doing what they're doing. Um, yeah, I have one question for you, Carl. How long do you think Israel has before everything collapses around them? Because I'm hearing that Israel has already asked. I mean, they've got 14.5 billion about 3 months ago, and that's already run out, and they're already using their reserves, and they've got a big shipment of weapons just came yesterday, and they're losing hundreds of billions in terms of weapons damage. I mean, these Merkava tanks cost 3 to 4 billion. I mean, 3 to 4 million each, and Hamas are taking them out with homemade rockets. And the official figures coming out, there's about 1,000 vehicles which have been destroyed in Gaza. These are Israeli vehicles, and this includes tanks, armored personnel carriers, um, also the destruction type vehicles that destroy buildings, those tractors and things like that. So there's about thousands of them, that there were thousand actually have been destroyed. And if you look at the inventory for Israel, they've got around 4,500 vehicles in total in terms of inventory. It's almost like a quarter has gone in Hamas. I mean, and they're losing people like crazy as well. I mean, Haaretz has said that they're not reporting their deaths correctly, because all the deaths that are reported are mainly sergeants or generals, but no ordinary soldier is being reported. They only seem to be very high up in terms of ranking for some strange reason. And these guys who are sergeants, they're 19 years old, 17 years old in some cases. And in the United States, if you want to be a sergeant, you need at least 10 years of experience. So it looks like they're given these trophies and these titles to these young kids, and I don't think they're reporting the deaths properly, and they're definitely not reporting the amount of damage that's created by Israel. I mean, by Hamas. And this is probably one of the reasons they are pulling back. They've pulled back quite a lot. How long do you think, Carl? Do you think they can survive this? Give me a second, guys. I'm just going to re-add Carl Zar again. We lost connection for a second. Hey, Carl. Good to have you back.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, yeah. But did you hear my question? Did you hear what I said?
Yes, I heard your question. So
Okay.
okay, I think military wise, Israel can probably scrape by with more fresh supplies from United States, but I don't think the war is sustainable on Israel's economy. I mean, this is Israel can only run on the work economy for so long before people will lose patience, and then when again most Israeli citizens, they have multiple passports. They don't have to hunker down in Tel Aviv. They can always choose to leave. And I think more and more people will choose to leave. And that will be kind of the end of Israeli settler project. When you don't have people, you can't. How can you continue your imperial project? And even United States, you see survey after survey saying like 40%, more than 40% of the Jewish population in U.S. are consider what's happening in Gaza is genocide. So they're not going to have more people coming to Israel. At this in the long term, this is not looking good. It's not looking good for Israel. So I think that's what we can all look forward to.
Sure. Thanks for that, Carl. Do you have time for one more question? Otherwise, we'll call it a
Okay,
day.
just one, guys. I'm
Just
really
one more.
dying here. Just
Oh, are
one.
you
That's
dying?
it.
All right. Actually, don't
Yeah.
worry about it. Then I think we should just let you go because it's really late, and I really
Okay.
appreciate
Thank you.
having you on board. And it's been a really insightful conversation. I hope everyone else enjoyed it as well. I'm sure they did. And yeah, I just want to thank you for your time, Carl. Really appreciate finally speaking to you and seeing you face to face. If you're around, we should do this more often, and we should definitely chat more.
Yeah, if we can start a little bit earlier next time, that would be good
Yeah,
because
sure.
10 p.m. is a little bit late for me. But thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah, definitely
Yeah.
start earlier. Could start much earlier. Yeah, thanks for that, Carl, and thank you, viewers. I really appreciate you guys joining and listening to our show. And yeah, come again. We'll try and get Carl again next time, and we should hopefully everyone has a nice day. And thank you, Carl. Thanks again. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you guys soon.